Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of Rumor and Innuendo. We are back from the Thanksgiving holiday spectacular. Dom will be on in just a few moments, but I wanted to make sure we were live at noon for all of you rumor and innuendoans. Is that what we're going with? We'll go with rumor and innuendoans for today. Why not? Jeff Henniger says, happy post-Thanksgiving, and what a War Games. What a hell of a show there was this past Saturday night. A great week of wrestling for those of you who got a chance to tune in. I thought that, Raw last week was a very strong episode of Monday Night Raw going into a pre-taped episode of SmackDown that still had a lot of good, strong content for those of you who tuned in. Saying hi to the wrestling old head. Hey, all in the R&I verse. One big takeaway from Survivor Series: no surprise is the biggest surprise, and I kind of agree. We had some thoughts and ideas of what we were anticipating seeing the beginning of the show. We thought, hey, maybe this is going to happen, maybe this is going to happen. And when the show came to a conclusion after a very long 12, 13 minutes of everybody kind of high-fiving and hugging one another, it just sort of ended. Jennifer V says, I miss the Dom intro. Maybe the only person who misses that very loud I can't stand it. Drives me absolutely bonkers, blows out my eardrums. But he is the best, and he will be joining us shortly. So we will dive right in to Survivor Series. And as Wrestling Old Head said, look, the biggest surprise was that there were no surprises. And sometimes that's okay. Your narrative has earned you the right to come to a natural conclusion. We were seeing baby faces versus heels. There were dynamics at play. And in both the men's and the women's War Games match, they went with a happy ending for that crowd. Not a Blue Chew ad happy ending segue, by the way, mind you. That was just a regular happy ending. But yes, the women's War Games match kicked things off, and it seems like there was a couple of consistent notes, feedbacks, things that I saw. First and foremost was the performance of Nia Jax. That was very much out of place. I think Nia has gotten better than where she was at, but she is absolutely not at a level where you want to start a War Games with her. Some of the folks who I think did stand out in that women's War Games match and really look great. I thought Tiffany Stratton looked very crisp in a lot of the moves that she did. There were a lot of moments where she had that additional step, that additional spring in her action that made you think this is someone who's going to be a bigger star going forward. I think there was a handspring elbow spot that she did, and the immediacy, the crispness of her delivery of the move was readily apparent that this is someone who is prepared for a bigger stage. The interactions with the women throughout it made a tremendous amount of sense, and I think that's something that in 2024 we maybe take for granted a little bit. 2, 3, 4 years ago, that might not have necessarily always been the case. The fact that there was still lingering tension between Bailey and Io Sky because of what happened with Damage Control was a really nice callback. The Candice LeRae and Tiffany Stratton moment where Tiffany went to go leave the cage and Candice cut in front of her because they're both sort of competing for the loyalty of Nia Jax was a really nice moment. The mask that they chose to put on Rhea Ripley to cover up the already broken orbital bone was a really cool touch. She had the face paint underneath it with a scar tattoo and a tattoo paint over her eyes, and a permanent tattoo. That's kind of insane. But what Lou 4237 always on point. Nia was swinging that chair with the feather touch of Gerald Briscoe swinging at Austin. If I had to choose between overly reckless Nia Jax or slightly less reckless Nia Jax, I'm going to choose feather swing Nia versus lady who almost cost us Becky Lynch. And, Nia hit that chair better late than never. And speaking of better late than never, Mr. Dominic D'Angelo is here.
What's up? How are you guys doing? Happy Monday. Wow, we survived Survivor Series, Robert.
We did. We're talking about the women's War Games match and some of the standouts from it. I think the Io Sky dive off the top of the cage with the trash can. Yes, we've seen it before. Yes, it's called back to another spot. It still looked damn impressive.
It was, yes. The big except I'm not sure how much you covered regarding the match itself, but the big exception I kind of took was a lot of those time spots and everything like that, and it did throw off a little bit of the rhythm of the match itself, and kind of just did not make it feel like a War Games match in certain ways. So,
see, I kind of disagreed. I didn't mind that. I feel like you're going to lay out a number of spots. There's going to be a number of moments that are going to happen. It's very tough to pull off a War Games match and make it work seamlessly. And at the end of the day, I think the moments that people remember the most in terms of a storyline was Tiffany Stratton pulling out the Money in the Bank briefcase, looking at Liv and Nia, who were both laid out. You're not sure who's she going to cash on. Is she going to cash in on one of them? Or is she going to betray her team? And then Raquel Rodriguez stepping in to go try to save Liv Morgan, only to wind up getting handcuffed and neutralized for the match, which then freed up Rhea Ripley to go after Liv to ultimately get the pin. And from that perspective, from a narrative story, I love that was the ending. It's the baby faces won. Everybody's happy to some extent. And now we can move forward with Liv, who has Io Sky as her next challenger. She clearly got pinned by Rhea Ripley, so Rhea Ripley is still floating around in the ether. And then you've got Nia Jax, who's going to be questioning Tiffany Stratton's actions and blaming her for costing that team the win. So from that perspective, I think the War Games match was successful. Were there some clunky moments? Yes, but I think in the history and the pantheon of War Games, that always sort of winds up being the case, Dom.
Sure, yeah, and that's definitely that comes with the territory of it all. I did enjoy the finishing spot too, with Rhea Ripley doing the pump handle slam or the riptide.
The riptide right through the table, yes,
which is very nicely done. So props to them. It was it was a fun little opener. Got the Vancouver really into it, and I thought it kept a pretty good rhythm overall for the rest of the show.
It definitely kept a pretty good rhythm, and guys. If you're looking to keep a pretty good rhythm as you're entering your own War Games, let's go with that. Does Blue Chew work? If you're asking that question, we want you to know that Blue Chew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you 1 month free. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost in an chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The last thing you want is to be trapped in that cage, watching the clock count down until you're able to spring into action. With Blue Chew, you don't have to worry about any of that. You're the first man, you're the last man, because Blue Chew wants all men rock hard. They told me that's their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free. Just pay $5 shipping at checkout when you visit BlueChew.com. That's BlueChew.com to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this Survivor Series edition of Rumor and Innuendo.
Thank you, Blue Chew.
Oh man, made it through that whole sucker. That I was fighting a hiccup the entire time.
You did. You were a champ, Robert.
I am a champion. You know who's also a champ? And that is Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not no more. No. We got, Shinsuke got the win, gouged a little bit of the eyes or thumb to the eye of LA Knight and helped him secure the victory. But Robert, I think this is a good move on WWE's part. Shinsuke is repackaged. absence makes a heart grow fonder. He's got the new look, the samurai look, and it's a good step for this United States Championship and maybe what we're going to see leading towards WrestleMania.
Interesting take. Sure. I love the presentation of Nakamura. Nakamura is great because he is a dude who you can legitimately heat up at any point in time.
Mhm.
He's a lot like AJ Styles. They are leftovers. You can pop them in, nuke them for 30 seconds, and they are white hot again.
Yeah.
I thought that the Nakamura LA Knight match was totally fine. The fact that LA Knight lost because he got dropped onto that partition in between the rings gives him a little bit of an out. Yes, there was the eye rake as well. LA Knight with the United States title wasn't lighting the world on fire by any stretch of the imagination. I thought for sure the purpose of LA Knight holding that title was to eventually transition it to Carmelo Hayes.
Mm.
But that's not what we got. We now have heel Nakamura. It was for lack of anything else, this was the surprise, quote unquote, for that show. And Nakamura as the Intercontinental Champion in a fairly strong upper mid card on SmackDown has a number of opportunities. You know, you can do a rematch with Andrade. We had a great Andrade Nakamura match on SmackDown. You still have Santos Escobar and Carmelo Hayes in an LA Knight rematch. So there's the possibility for more 3-way, 4-way matches going forward with Shinsuke. He's a dude you can trust with just about anybody.
How would you go with not LA Knight? How would you go with Shinsuke moving forward? Who would you put him up against? Would you circle back with LA Knight back in the mix and create a chase for him, or would you do something differently?
I'd love to see another Andrade Nakamura match. I think that just the promise of those two wrestling one another is intriguing and interesting enough. And LA Knight trying to get back his title may be compelling. LA Knight freed up for the Rumble might be compelling. I think that what's nice about Shinsuke Nakamura is he is sort of that very pure evil heel that whoever you want to put him in there with is instantly going to get the reaction that you want. And maybe, just maybe, hypothesizing here, Carmelo Hayes talked a big game, lost to Cody Rhodes. Maybe we're going to start leaning a little bit into an unsure Carmelo as a babyface, and then he captures the Intercontinental title, gets that win with a pop. Who knows?
Yeah, that's not a bad move either. Yeah, I'm with that on Robert. It's a good one. Another good one was the match between Gunther and Damian Priest. So is that the next?
It was a good one, but that is not the next match.
Oh no! Dang it!
It's great. It's all right. We had like 4 days off. You haven't. You're still, the tryptophan is still in your system. Did you have a nice Thanksgiving, by the way?
I did. It was really nice. Yeah, really nice. Got to spend it with my grandma, my aunt, my mom. Did nice stuff.
Saw some pictures on Facebook. You're all holding the baby, hoping that baby
Yes.
belonged to somebody who was at that Thanksgiving. We know your dubious history of kidnapping children.
How was the Macy's Day Parade, by the way?
Freezing cold. It was so cold it was mistaken for an Adam Cole feud.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was 30 degrees technically, but then with wind chill colder, and it rained nonstop from 4:45 in the morning until 11 o'clock in the morning when the parade finally finished walking by me. Somewhat worth it. Got to see it. It happened. It was done. Checked off the bucket list for my daughter. So I get the dad points here. And I'm sure an equally proud dad was Rick Steiner, seeing his boy, Braun Breaker, defeat Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser in what I thought was a very intense, very physical triple threat match.
Absolutely. This is, I think, the best match on the card in regards to what was conveyed and how these guys worked with one another. It was just a lot of fun. Sheamus, the welts on his back were just insane. I thought what Kaiser added to the match, and he's just top notch at facials and everything like that when it comes to the ring presence and everything. And Braun Breaker just feels like a star. And I liked his pre-match promo that was aired on social media. Sets him up to what you were saying. I think last week was, or maybe 2 weeks ago, was just like they're in a good position with Braun Breaker because they can kind of use him in that heelish or babyface role right now, and it sets him up very nicely moving forward. I think, Robert.
Braun Breaker is Braun Breaker, and I think that in and of itself makes his character valuable. So yes, whether it's kind of like Brock Lesnar.
Hmm.
Whether he's babyface or heel, Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. Whoever you put him in there with, it's going to be the same sort of match, which is something that you want for a consistency of character. The fact that Sheamus was selling those ribs as well as he was, that finishing sequence, that crowd bit hard on the Ludwig Kaiser fake finish. That he was going to finish off Sheamus. This was going to be the moment. Boom, there was the spear. Boom, another spear. Braun Breaker retains. Ludwig Kaiser still looks like a tremendous star for the future. And Sheamus, as the grizzled veteran, playing his role perfectly.
Hmm. Yeah, and I thought the added intrigue of him potentially, hey, this is the only title he wasn't able to achieve yet. That added some intrigue to that behind it, and then you had Kaiser just being the wild card. Like he could have been the guy that really flipped the card on everything and have him have a on a reign. But I like what they're doing with Braun Breaker a lot.
I like what they're doing with Braun Breaker. I did like what they were doing in the Gunther Priest match as well.
Yeah, explain. Give me a reason. I like it too.
I think we knew we needed to get a match for Gunther on Survivor Series, and we were obviously not getting a Cody Rhodes match here. So you're going to get this Gunther Damian Priest match with the understanding that Gunther's not going to lose the title. He's not going to lose this title for quite some time, but you needed a way for Priest to lose in a way that made sense. So the constant selling by Priest during this match that yes, Gunther doesn't really have that confidence, but he can still take advantage of Priest's own missteps and working over body parts. And those of you who don't love Gunther matches, it's a different type of wrestling than probably what you're used to. It is a much more old school approach. It is a lot more hold based. The moves feel like they hurt. They feel more impactful. Priest sold them really, really well. And then the Finn Balor interference at the end means we're going to get a continuation of this Priest Finn Balor story. If I'm WWE, why not a triple threat?
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, I think, too, in regards. I think I liked the psychology used in this match. I thought they protected Priest very well in here. I thought the shoulder story that was being told was great. And the look of doubt on Gunther's face starting off the match was very telling and really, really added to that element of it. And I also like the fact, too, that Gunther was not happy that Finn Balor interfered.
That's what I was just going to say. Johnny Disco said it here. I hope this leads to Gunther Balor feud motivated by the interference. I think that's where you're able to get a triple threat, because coming from this outcome, it does feel like, yeah, Priest should probably get another shot. But then you run the risk of, do you want to beat Damian Priest in a one-on-one match with Gunther at the next either PLE or Saturday Night's Main Event or Rumble or whatever that may be? I wouldn't necessarily want to beat Priest clean. You do a triple threat match, you have Finn Balor involved, and when it's a triple threat and there's no disqualification, it gives you a lot more outs.
Yeah, absolutely. It does set things up very well. Yeah, like what they're doing with Gunther. I think it's a cool kind of story that they are telling with him in regards to having a little bit of doubt, but he's also this credible champion that can still get the job done.
I agree, and that was the pay-per-view. That was the PLE, right? Oh wait, no, sorry, there was one more match.
Oh, okay.
Men's War Games.
Yes.
Dom, what'd you think of this match?
So I liked it. I did. I know we talked about it in the group chat a little bit, but I think
pretend there is no group chat and we have tens of thousands of people listening to us around the world who are not privy to that. Give me your completely spontaneous thoughts.
Okay. I overall liked it. I thought it was a better War Games match than the women's match, and I thought I was surprised by the ending. I thought they would continue to heat up the new bloodline here, but we got a definitive win by CM Punk and the OTC and the rest of the crew. So I liked the moments that they took overall in telling the stories when it comes to who's entering next, CM Punk, the tension between him and Roman Reigns, and I thought that was really, really well done. So overall, I very much enjoyed this main event, Robert.
A lot of fun moments of tension throughout this match. Punk and Roman staring each other down. Punk trying to leave the cage and Roman not letting him and having Sammy go instead, and then Punk cutting in front of him to charge in there as the fourth guy to tease that tension that this old Bloodline group is not going to get along, and that the new Bloodline is working like a well-oiled machine. There was a great little visual where CM Punk goes for the GTS hand signal, and then you got Jacob Fatu behind him doing the prayer hands that looks exactly the same. I like that. I like that they locked up the cage so Roman had to scale it, and then he jumps down in what felt like a Marvel movie. This did
Mhm.
not feel like a wrestling match. This felt like we want to get to big moment and big moment and big moment. And one of those big moments was Roman jumping off the cage and taking out everybody. And then it's him fighting them off 5-on-1. The tension between him and Punk coming to a head when Bronson Reed was on the top to do that tsunami off the top of the cage, and Punk makes the save on Roman, and then they give each other kind of the bro hug. The finish, eh.
Mhm.
On the one hand, it was 5-on-1, so it was all the baby faces taking out Solo Sikoa.
Yep.
So Solo's frustration can be on his bloodline letting him down.
Mhm.
And that I was still there 5-on-1 and I had to face all of them. That happens. I don't know where we really go next with these guys. Yes, we teased Punk and Roman, but then they were happy, happy, joy, joy, thanks to Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And I know I kept saying I wanted to see a Sami Zayn heel turn. That would have freshened this up a little bit, I think, for sure. But as that match progressed, the more offense Sammy delivered on his solo, the more I realized, oh yeah, we're not getting that turn. And we got almost 19 minutes of 5-on-5 war games. Like once everybody was in, we still had a whole match.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of spots, a lot of moments. Jimmy Uso diving off the cage. Um, we'll see what story they wind up ultimately telling, potentially on Raw, definitely on SmackDown. But that long tail at the end of that episode, at the end of that PLE, where it did feel like episodic television.
It was Freudian slip.
They're all in the ring celebrating. They're all happy. Then they all go up to the top of the ramp. And they're all there, and they're all happy, and they're posing, and they're posing, and they're posing, and then the show ends. And I kept thinking, what moment are we going to get? I didn't necessarily want this to be The Rock, because I don't want The Rock to say that he's immediately aligning with the losers.
Sure.
But then it's like, well, what is our next something? There was nothing.
Mhm.
This felt like the concluding chapter in a lot of ways. We know it's not. We know we're getting to Rumble and Mania, and eventually we will get CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. We will probably eventually get a Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa one-on-one match, because even though the babyfaces won War Games, Solo still has the Unifala.
Yes. And he still got a pin on Roman too, as well.
He does still have a pin on Roman, so there is the possibility of that one-on-one, and then obviously whatever they wind up doing with Jacob Fatu, because that dude is a friggin' star.
100%. And guys, if you have not seen Fatu in previous forms, he's an amazing promo, and they have not even tapped into that yet. So there's a lot more on the vine than what you're just seeing when it comes to Jacob Fatu. Yeah, Robert, when it comes to what's next, how do you heat this new bloodline up again if you're doing that? I mean, Hikuleo's in the wings, but is that really going to do anything when it comes to making these feel like credible foes for the baby faces that we have lined up?
What I have wanted to see, and still theoretically want to see, is I want Rock as number 30 in the Royal Rumble,
Mm-hmm.
and then the new bloodline descend into the ring and they eliminate everybody without Rock touching anyone.
Yeah.
And then you get Rock and Cody at Mania. Roman can somehow wind up in there potentially as a third or has another match, whatever that may be. But I feel like letting these guys be subservient to The Rock ultimately might be the strongest play that they have. Tony Gong asks, at what point does Roman get the Ulafala back? They're really putting some steam behind Saturday night's main event,
Mm-hmm.
or they can push it all the way to Rumble.
They could do that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So who knows? What I do know is Raw tonight is going to have a pretty spectacular story based on what we saw last Monday.
Yeah, yeah. Should be
New
exciting.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
New
New
Day.
Day
New
stuff.
Day had a segment because since I wasn't here, did you do any shows while I wasn't here or no?
I did one. I did the Wednesday one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was.
So, oh yeah, there was Dynamite. I completely forgot Dynamite was a thing. I
Yeah.
haven't even watched Dynamite yet.
I
That's
know.
how
I haven't either.
important it was. I got back. I watched all the Raw stuff, SmackDown, Survivor Series. Want to be here to talk about all that. But the tension, the interaction between Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, where Kofi finally snaps and just tells him like, "Hey, you're just not good enough to be a champion." And now we're going to get this New Day 10th anniversary thing tonight. I think, and Trey Owens says it right here, so I'm gonna throw it to him. Big E needs to come out tonight. I think this is where we get a unified New Day. We get that hug. I don't want to see them break up. You don't want to see them break up.
No, I do. I do.
Well, you're a sick man, Dom.
I definitely do. I really
You are an evil, evil man. Why do you want to see them break up?
Because I think what I'd like to see have happen is them elevate Xavier Woods to the next level, because you had that confrontation with him and Kofi, and Kofi said it straight out, like, you have not been to the level that me or Big E has basically been at. And, I think this would be a great way for the New Day to help out Xavier Woods and boost him up to the next level and as a great, great heel. And you can do that. I mean, if you had him just turn on both Big E and Kofi, that's just a memorable moment that would even elevate that for a 10-year anniversary of New Day.
I think here's the challenge with him turning at this point. If he were to turn and be a heel, he's obviously not a top heel because that's Gunther.
Sure.
He's not a top heel because that's Finn Balor and Judgment Day. He's not a top heel because you still have Ludwig Kaiser floating around. He would be heel at the same level as Final Testament and The Miz. If they because I think if they do reunite, and if the messaging is this is a rejuvenated New Day, and now they're coming after the tag team champions in Judgment Day, that's fun. Braun Breaker is not the guy that Xavier Woods should be beating. And if you were gonna turn Xavier Woods heel, he would need to then win the Intercontinental title. I think that's where you have a little bit of an issue. What I harp on, and this will be the last point because I know we're running low on time. New Day has always said in interviews they never want to split because they want to be a different stable than every other stable that's existed. That they represent something bigger than themselves. And I know that is how they feel. So I think a split here would sort of betray that legacy in a way that I don't think WWE wants to do. Other duos that have great legacies is Dominic D'Angelo and Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, that's right, Robert. We went live last night, Sunday night. Me and Rob did. And we chatted more about the WWE version of ECW. We covered a lot of ground. We had some run-ins by Katie Forbes. It was a really, really fun episode. It's up now on rvdtv.com, and we'll be up later today in audio format on at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So wherever you get your podcast, type in One of a Kind with RVD. You'll get it right there. So there we go, Robert. You and Scott, I'm sure, are planning a Patreon for Working Stiff when it comes to recapping stuff.
We will. We did a special edition of Working Stiff last week with myself, Scott Chaplin, and Mike Lawrence. We went over 2 hours. We barely talked anything modern wrestling. We talked Saturday Night Live, talked comedy, we talked old school wrestling, general fandom. It's a blast. It's well worth going and checking out. But yeah, Scotty and I will be doing a Patreon talking about Survivor Series. Then we'll be back for our main show this Thursday. So you can get that wherever you get podcasts.
Uh-oh.
What? What are you laughing about?
I think I'm frozen.
Oh, yeah, you were frozen. Thanks for interrupting with your laughs. You killing me, dumb. All right. You can catch our show every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on a plethora of platforms, including the WWE Creative_ISH X account, the SC Scoops X account, and on YouTube on Working Stiff, ad-free shows, and Rumor and Innuendo. So on behalf of the perpetually frozen Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpolis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
My dang cat razor.